funny how birthdays evolve as the years go by. As a child, it's all about balloons, cake, and that giddy kind of magic you believe only exists for you. But when you're older, the celebrations quiet down. They become reflective, about time, about people, about moments that sneak up on you wearing unexpected faces. That's what happened to me. On the night I turned 65, my son gave me something I didn't expect, a moment that redefined how I looked at both of us. And no, it wasn't a gift you can wrap in glossy paper or top with a neat little bow. It was something far more intimate. Something that would ripple through everything I thought I knew. Before I dive in, tell me, where are you listening from? I love knowing how far a story can stretch. Whether you're watching from a lakeside cabin in Minnesota, a coffee shop in Seattle, or tucked into a Brooklyn apartment, this one's for you. That morning unfolded like most of my birthdays. An early call from my high school best friend, a knock at the door with a bouquet from the neighbor down the road, and the quiet echo of a house that's learned to hold silence in its arms. My son Nathan had promised to stop by for dinner. He said he had something meaningful to share. There was a flicker in his voice I couldn't quite place, a mix of nerves and anticipation. Golden afternoon light poured through the kitchen blinds, washing the hardwood floor in honey-colored streaks. I slipped into my navy blue dress, one of those simple cotton ones that hugs just right. Not because I was going anywhere, but because, somehow, looking nice helped make the day feel like it counted. I even pinned my silvering hair up with a few curls left loose, the way I used to when Nathan was little. At 5 sharp, I heard the familiar crunch of tires on gravel. I opened the front door before he could even knock. And there he was. Nathan, a little taller than I remembered, with that easy grin that always made my worries feel small. In one hand, he held a gift wrapped in understated brown paper. In the other, a grocery bag brimming with fresh ingredients. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, wrapping me in a hug that felt deeper somehow, held for an extra heartbeat. He took over the kitchen like it was his own, unpacking a bundle of rosemary, baby carrots, a bottle of red wine, and a modest bakery cake with "Happy 65th" written in soft pink frosting. Usually, I'm the one who cooks, but tonight Nathan insisted. I stood nearby watching, the way his forehead creased while slicing onions, how his hands moved with quiet confidence. The scent of garlic and herbs filled the space, and for a moment, it felt like time folded inward. We chatted about simple things, the new neighbor's overly excited poodle, the heat wave that had blanketed most of the country, a documentary we'd both watched. But underneath the small talk, something stirred. Every so often, his eyes drifted toward the wrapped box on the counter, like it was whispering to him. When dinner was ready, he poured 2 glasses of wine and lit a candle. He'd made roasted chicken with rosemary potatoes. My absolute favorite. We laughed more than we had in months. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was just the comfort of sitting across from someone who knew me by heart. After dishes were cleared and rinsed, he picked up the box. He held it out to me but didn't release it right away. "Before you open this," he said, voice low, "I need you to know this is more than just a birthday gift. It's something I've been holding on to. Something I need to share." My chest tightened slightly. His tone carried a weight I wasn't used to hearing in him. I gave a slow nod, my fingers brushing the edges of the carefully folded paper. Nathan sat down again, facing me. His expression calm but open in a way that made my heart ache. "Whatever's in here," he said, "it's a part of me. A real part. And I think once you see it, you might not see me quite the same." The candlelight danced between us, throwing flickers across his face. The kitchen, usually so full of familiar comfort, suddenly felt like sacred ground. My fingers slipped under the edge of the tape. A part of me wanted to rip through it, get to the heart of whatever this was. But another part was scared of how this moment might rearrange everything. When the last piece of paper fell away, I found a smooth wooden box, warm to the touch, the color of steeped tea. Tucked underneath a piece of navy ribbon was an envelope with my name in his handwriting. Inside the box, nestled in midnight blue velvet, were 3 items: a silver flash drive, an old cassette tape with Mom written in neat letters, and a small brass key tied to a frayed piece of faded denim. I opened the envelope slowly. The note inside was short but steady, each word carved with intention. If you're willing, start with a flash drive. Then the tape. The key is last. I'm right here. We'll go through it together. Nathan. That last line landed somewhere deep inside me. Heavier than it looked. He wasn't just handing me something and stepping back. He was staying. He was anchoring me through whatever this was. I looked up at him, searching his face. He gave me one of those quiet, steady nods. The same kind he used to give me as a child when he was about to try something new on the playground, a little nervous but ready. And so we moved to the living room. The old speaker sat waiting on the coffee table, its worn edges quietly telling stories of years gone by. Nathan had already set it up. I plugged in the flash drive. For a moment, nothing, just stillness. Then a faint pop, a flicker of static, and a piano chord climbed softly into the room, like the slow drawing of a curtain. It was simple, gentle, but it struck something deep in me, the way a scent can tug you decades back in time. Then came the voice, clear, young, brave in that beautifully unaware kind of way. It was mine. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't heard myself like that in years. Decades, really. It was a song I used to sing at community nights down at the old church, back when Thursday evenings meant folding chairs, strong coffee, and hope tied up in every note. I listened to that version of me stumble through the first few bars, find footing by the chorus, and end with quiet applause that felt like sunlight on skin. I remembered everything, the creak of the wooden floors, the soft hum of an old fan in the corner, and the way my college boyfriend, who later became my husband, stood by the door, beaming like he'd just seen the stars land on Earth. "How did you find this?" I whispered, the words barely making it out. Nathan glanced at me, sliding a little closer on the couch. "Mrs. Patterson," he said gently. "Your old choir teacher. She kept tapes from those open mic nights. I found her through a friend. She's in her 90s now, but when I played your voice, she knew who it was before I even told her." He tapped a key on the laptop. Faces began to appear, one after another. A collage of voices and memories stitched together like a handmade quilt. Mrs. Patterson's eyes lit up on the screen, her cheekbones sharper than I remembered, but her voice still warm. "Rebecca," she said. Just that. Name. And I was undone. It was the way she said it, like someone handing you back a piece of yourself. Then came Mark, my old neighbor from Chicago, still in his usual flannel, laughing about the time I rolled an old upright piano halfway down our street on a dolly just because I'd promised myself I'd practice every day that summer. There was a nurse from the hospital where I'd worked overnights during Nathan's early years, thanking me for the coffee I brought to shift changes and how I never complained, not once, even when things got hard. And then, my sister. Someone I hadn't seen in more years than I cared to count. Her smile was hesitant, but her words were soft and steady. "Becca," she said, "I know we lost time, but I never forgot the way you'd hum in your sleep. Like you had music in your dreams." The video ended with Nathan. He adjusted the camera, balanced it on a stack of old cookbooks. Then he sat down, looked straight ahead, and spoke with the same quiet honesty he used when he was small and telling me things that mattered. "Hi, Mom," he said. "If you're seeing this, it means I finally got brave enough to give it to you. When Dad got sick, you shelved every dream, every song, every plan. You did it for me. You never once asked for thanks. And I know I haven't said this enough, so this is me saying it the way it's supposed to be said." He didn't cry on the screen. And he didn't cry beside me. But the heaviness in his voice held everything that mattered. He shut the laptop slowly. And in the hush that followed, it felt like the house had sighed with us. "I stopped singing when your father needed me," I said, not out of regret, just truth. "And then, once he was gone, I didn't know how to find my voice again without him sitting in the back, reminding me I wasn't foolish to believe in it." Nathan nodded. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why there's more." He handed me the cassette. My thumb brushed over the ink of my name. "Rebecca, scrawled across the label. The date written on the side, June 14, 1981. That was the year I felt like the world could bend in any direction, and all of them led somewhere good. I had it converted, he said. Mrs. Patterson gave her blessing. He clicked on another file, and a new song filled the room, this one looser, lighter. I could hear myself laughing between verses after a missed chord, the audience clapping along to keep me steady until I found my rhythm again. It wasn't polished. It was real. And beneath it, just barely audible, came a voice I hadn't heard in years. My husband. His voice low, kind, steady. "You've got this, Becca." I shut my eyes, let that whisper curl around me, lifting from decades ago and landing like an anchor in my chest. When the final note faded, the silence left behind wasn't empty. It was full of everything we had heard and everything still unsaid. I wiped my eyes, met Nathan's gaze. He had his father's quiet strength, but the tenderness, the way he looked at me like I mattered in this moment, that was all his own. "What's the key for?" I asked, the words almost fragile. He picked it up, warm from resting in the velvet. Placing it in my palm, he said softly, "This part's bigger." Then he laughed once, nervously. "But I have to tell you something first." So we stayed there, with music still echoing inside the walls, and he told me everything, the parts one hadn't heard. About the ache that followed his father's passing, the isolation he buried in his job, how grief felt like being locked in a room with no windows and no exit. He began telling me about a street fair he'd passed through last fall, the kind with kettle corn in paper bags and jazz bands playing under fluttering banners. He said he saw me there, not literally but in memory. There was a man playing a battered piano under a string of fairy lights, and when he hit a certain chord, he said, "Your face came back to me. The way you used to look when music lit you up from the inside." He said that image stayed with him, tracing through his thoughts like a melody he couldn't shake, pushing him to find a way to give that look back to me. "I thought I had to be the one holding it all together," Nathan admitted, his voice barely above the sound of the clock in the hall. "I thought if I just kept going you wouldn't have to carry everything, the house, the bills, the ache in your chest. But moving forward isn't the same as giving something real. And I didn't know how to hand you something that wouldn't vanish." I took his hand. It was warm, steady, just as it had always been, even when he was 5 and holding on to me in parking lots. "You're here," I said. "That's the part that lasts." He gave a tight nod and cleared his throat. "I also did something kind of boring, but I knew you'd appreciate it." From his coat pocket, he pulled out a folded paper. It was a transfer confirmation. 3 months of the mortgage paid in full. "I'm not trying to fix everything," he added quickly, catching the way my eyebrows rose. I wanted you to breathe easier. Maybe even breathe deeper. It's a strange thing, the feeling of your life realigning without fanfare. A chair moved slightly. A door left open to light. That's how it felt. Quiet. Clear. A sense of ease I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Gratitude came next. And after that, a tenderness so deep it felt almost maternal, like seeing your baby give you back the love you taught him. I stood and slid on my slippers. The key felt different in my hand now, weighted not by metal but by meaning. "So where does this lead?" I asked, even though the tears were still slipping down like soft rain. "To the garage," Nathan said with a smile that trembled a little. "But slowly, okay? Let it hit you like a verse, not a drumbeat." We moved together down the hall. The lamp cast its glow across the familiar photos in mismatched frames, the rippled mirror I've had since the 80s, the ceramic bowl where my keys always land. The garage door let out its usual groan, and a cool breath rolled in over our feet. There, beneath a white canvas sheet, was something long and boxy. The bulb overhead cast a quiet spotlight on it, and for a second, the room felt like a theater just before the show begins. My heart thudded loud, fierce, steady. I looked at Nathan, and he looked like a boy again, nervous but proud, hoping his creation would be understood. Before you uncover it, he said softer now, just know, this isn't about going backward. It's about giving a seat at the table to the part of you that never left. The key clicked in the old side door like it was clearing its throat after years of silence. I stepped forward, brushed the canvas, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard my younger self promising, I'll finish the song. I pulled the cloth back. There, under the warm hum of the bulb, stood an upright piano. Mahogany so rich it looked like it could drink moonlight, its brass pedals shining like forgotten treasure. A delicate blend of polish and history rose to meet me, the scent of evenings spent in my childhood living room, when my father used to let the notes hang in the air until they found a place to land. It wasn't just any piano. Same make, same model. Same year as the one I sold all those years ago so Nathan could join his school's Washington trip. My voice cracked before I even reached for it. Nathan, this must have been expensive. It would have cost more not to, he said, quiet but sure, like someone who had sat with this truth for a long, long time. I lifted the lid. There they were, keys lined like old friends, waiting. I pressed middle C. The sound was mellow, lived-in, like a voice that's been through things and learned to sing anyway. My fingers hesitated, then moved. Muscle memory filled in the blanks where thought fell short. The notes weren't perfect. My hands shook a bit. But it was mine. Play something, Nathan said, not a command. Blessing. So I did. An old hymn, from a chapter of my life when dreams were still written in pencil. My tempo wobbled. My fingers missed a few harmonies. But the melody found its footing. And when I looked up, Nathan was leaning against the wall. His eyes shut. His smile soft and full. Like someone listening to a story they already knew but still wanted to hear again. Halfway through I stopped. Not because I forgot the next chord but because something dawned, something undeniable. This gift, this music, this moment, it wasn't just mine. It was his too. A message written in effort, in thought, in care. I see you. Even when you don't ask to be seen. I crossed the room, stood beside him. This isn't just a birthday gift, I said. I know, he replied. It's a doorway. You can walk through it whenever you're ready. We sat on the piano bench, the both of us. My hands guided his over the keys, just like I used to when he was little, back when the whole world fit inside one afternoon and a simple song. He remembered more than I expected. His fingers moved over the keys, uncertain at first, but they found their way, just like they used to on the playground bars, learning by feel. We both laughed when we missed a note, didn't bother correcting it. It wasn't about hitting every beat. It was about sitting side by side in this old garage while the world waited quietly on the other side of the door. When the final note faded, the silence it left wasn't empty. It was complete. The kind of quiet that holds meaning, that invites you to listen to what's usually too soft to hear. You brought back a part of me I thought I'd lost, I said, my voice catching. Nathan gave a slow shake of his head. You didn't lose it, Mom. It was just waiting. That's all. Much later, after he'd left and the night had deepened into stillness, I found myself back in the garage. The moonlight slid through the high window, turning the keys silver and soft. I sat down again, hands aching a little from fatigue, voice worn from humming, but my heart felt steadier than it had in years. Between songs, I thought about everything I'd tucked away over the decades. The small dreams, quiet hopes, all the maybe next times, I'd whispered into the corners of my life while holding the weight of others. The truth is, later doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it arrives in the shape of the child you raised, handing you pieces of yourself you forgot you left behind. When I finally climbed into bed, the scent of old varnish still clung to my skin, and music swirled gently behind my eyes like a lullaby I once knew by heart. But I didn't feel 65 years old. I felt like all the versions of myself had gathered and were sitting quietly beside me, still whole, still here. That night, I didn't just receive a gift wrapped in ribbon or tucked inside a box. I received something deeper, a reminder. Some doors stay shut for a long time, not because they're locked, but because we forget they're ours to open. And when we finally do, we realize we've been holding the key the whole time.